Alright. Looks like we're streaming. I'll just take a sip. Exciting stuff. Tell the world that we're streaming. I am in pure slouch mode today. I am barely in this chair. Streaming game dev, doing character animation trees in Unreal. So in the last episode, I'm slouching maybe a little bit too much. It's probably gonna need to actually move at some point. So in the last episode, I had gotten like 2 hours of sleep and I was super tired, and I created some assets. I told Unreal that I would like a certain thing to be afloat, and instead, it exploded violently and crashed, hard froze, I guess. That wasn't too great, so I'm going to try the same thing again. Of course I am, right? Because I want to test and see how far Unreal can be pushed. If it's going to crash like Unity crashes, there's not much point in me preferring Unreal. But we'll see. So the big thing here is I put this together. This is the old version. The problem is that the new mech skeleton actually has some better names. There doesn't appear to be a remap. At least I couldn't find a way to remap that that lets me map the old bone names to the new bone names. So just trying to remap this structure to the new skeleton does something strange. It creates like 50 assets. It doesn't make any sense. So presumably I just don't get what that is yet. So we're just going to recreate it. What? What's going on? That was a little weird. Not sure what that was about. So here is our skeleton, and if we wanted to, we can just duplicate this. But I'm going to start by duplicating the variables because that's what crashed last time. You can see how it defaults to a Boolean. That's what the red means. Last time when I changed this to a float, it exploded. Now I think the reason it exploded is because I had a whole bunch of references that I'd copied in, and it had decided that those references all needed to be something or othered, and it just did not work. So this time I'll switch up the variables first, and I really would prefer them in the same order. See? Same order. And we might be able to copy the state machine, but I'm not at all sure because the state machine contains references to animations. And blend spaces, which I don't know. I think we're going to have to recreate those. Let's start by recreating the blend spaces. So right now we don't have any decent place to put these in our setup here, so we're just going to create a new folder. That's not where I told you to create it. Try that again. I'm going to go ahead and call this animations, and we're going to just move these over into that. No, that was the wrong. Hold on, try that again. There we go. So now these are in the right spot, and I believe that they're the same thing. Yeah, we don't have to worry about them desyncing. Joys of modern game dev. But we do have to create some duplicate blend shapes, so we'll go ahead and do that right now. They're not shapes, blend spaces, those are them. So the 1D blend spaces are probably enough for us, I think. And we'll just recreate. Look at this, see that? What's it saying there? Now the thing is, when I tried to merge the old, when I tried to do a combination, I did something and I'm not actually sure that it survived. So what might be best is for us to delete and re-import everything. So let's go ahead and do that. Just delete it all. And then we'll come up here to the animations and delete these two. We'll just delete everything that contains any references. That includes the blend spaces. I don't know where I put the blend spaces. They are obviously... there's the mecha character. We're going to move that over to animations. We'll be using that later. I'm not sure where I put the rest of those things that I wanted to delete, so we're just gonna leave it like that for now. But we do have to re-import all that stuff, so I'm gonna open up Blender. Give me a moment. That's not the right one. That's the right one. Super slouched. All right, so here we are back in Blender. And this is our mech as it stands. So we're probably going to do a little bit more tweaking here and there. And the cause of all of this issue, cause of all this problem, is I named these things lower body and upper body rather than bone 1 and bone 2. And well, Unreal didn't like remapping where some of the bones had changed names, and it was trying to create new bones named Bone 1 and Bone 2. I have no idea where it would think to try and put them. I don't know why. There's probably a remapping tool that would have allowed me to remap it. Maybe not, I don't know. Either way, it was causing me grief, and it looks like it screwed up the assets, so we're going to re-import them. Since we're re-importing them, we might as well change their name. We're going to call this Mech A Armature. And then over here, when we go into the object, Mech Prototype, that's fine. Call that the same things here. And we'll just go ahead and hit export. We'll pop on over to Unreal, and those things should get imported. So just import everything. Now the only issue is we're going to get some illegal skeletons, so we'll have to retrain some of the skeletons here. You see how it says skeleton armature falling. We don't want armature falling, we want the skeleton itself, which is, I believe, this one. Yeah. Just re-import that. Here, look, it keeps trying to default to a different skeleton. I'm not sure why. I say import all, and it seems to assume I mean import the next ½ inch of content. That was long. Alright, so let's take a look. It should be here. There's a skeleton we want. Up here, there's a skeleton we don't want. I'm going to delete that skeleton and remap it to the one we just picked. There we go. So now it's all synchronized and properly set up. Of course, these animations here are raw animations imported from the file. They're also like... This can't be how it's supposed to work. This has to be like a lot of fluff. It doesn't really make any sense that we would have skeletal meshes for every animation. They should just be animation sequences. I don't know. I think that these are... all these purple ones are garbage. I think all these purple ones are just noise caused by the pipeline, which I can't say is... that happened in Unity too. It's not something that's unique to Blender. If you look at Unity's blend file imports, it's got like these 85 things, and half of them are total garbage. Either way, we got to create some stuff. We'll start by creating the 2 animation blend spaces we need. We're going to call this Mech A Rise to Fall. And all we're going to do is drop in the rising and the falling. So here is falling. Just put that in. I think it has to be on the left due to the way that this system works. And here's the rising. That's not rising. That's rising. Boom. Easy as pie. We're going to go ahead and name this axis falling, or falling rate, or something like that. Later on we'll plug that in properly. So just close that down. And then we're going to need another one. Which we'll call Mech A Walk to Run, or Idle to Run. So that's going to go from 0 to, I don't know, 2200, 2500, something like that. And we're going to put in an idle animation over here on the left at 0. Then we're going to put a walking animation here somewhere, 625-ish. We'll have to adjust that, I think. I think it needs to be closer to there. And then we'll have a running animation over here on the right. And we're going to call this run speed. I don't know. We'll figure it out later. With those two created, the next thing we're going to have to do is actually create the animation blueprint. And there we go. We're going to call this mech anim blueprints. I guess we call it just, is it ABP? Is that the summary? Animation blueprint. Not all points bulletin. I don't know. Well, we can rename it later. So as before, we need to have a tree state machine. There it is. Into the state machine, we need some new states. And now here's where we can inherit, or rather not inherit, but we can pull up the other one and sort of remember how we did that. Except for I think we deleted it, didn't we? Yeah, we deleted it. So we can't. What an idiot. So then we're going to have to just do it from scratch. That's fine. We can always learn from that. So we're going to need to add a new state, which we are going to call... There we are. We're going to call this walking. Walking. And we're also going to need a state that is falling, or in air, whatever we want to call it. And we're going to need to transition between these two using a Boolean. Now the Boolean in question, all we really need to do is choose it, which I think we double click, yeah. So in order to do this, we're going to need to have a variable. We do not have one in this particular setup yet, so we're going to have to add it. Didn't we already? Oh no, I deleted that stuff. We're going to call this is falling. And we'll just pull that in here. There we go. And then we leave and do the exact same. Except we got one of them backwards. This one's backwards. It has to be not. There we are. So with that in mind, we'll be able to walk or fall as needed. When we go into walking or falling, we're going to need to have an animation here. We're going to use the rise to fall animation and then drop that in and then drop that in. The falling animation needs to be fed a number, so we'll need to create a number. We're going to call this fall rate. Call it a float. Get fall rate. Boom. And then we're going to want to go over, it's actually not fall rate, it's rise rate, whatever, it's fine. Go over to walking, and we're going to want the idle to run here. And that's got a run speed, so we'll create a run speed here. Very basic setup. So this will work, except for the small fact that we don't have variables getting set yet. So the variables don't currently exist. That's why we come over here into the event graph, and as I understand it, I need to just refetch all of those variables. The problem is I don't remember a damn thing about it, because it's been 3 weeks. So I believe that there were variables in here that we could get. See, there should be an is falling. There isn't an is falling. There was a get class by get components by class. I think that's what we were doing here. Was it get component? Yeah, get component by class. And we should be able to pick a a character movement component, something like that. Character movement component. There we are. And then this should have is falling. There it is. You need to have the right class so that you can grab a variable from the class. That makes perfect sense, right? So this gets the Boolean that we want. So we're just going to pop that in and set it right here. Obviously, we are going to need to set this. But there was something where we wanted to make sure that it was valid. I think this was it. Yeah. Because otherwise we'll get some errors when we're starting up. There, that should do. So that gets our is falling, but there are lots of other things we need to get, like the fall rate and the run speed. So to get those, we're going to get the current velocity, I believe, but let's take a look here. Components, character movement, add force, find floor, get current acceleration, not quite what we want. Get last updates velocity. Alright, so then we can break that up. And I believe that Z is up in this game engine. I can't remember. So we'll just set that. Easy enough to fix it if it turns out to be wrong. The other thing we're going to need is a magnitude. Now obviously this gets a Z magnitude as well, which you could think is like a bad idea, but because it's going to be setting the is falling separately, this isn't even going to have an effect on the animation if you're falling. So that should work. Alright, I believe that is an almost exact duplicate of what we had before. Just going to go ahead and hit compile here. Now when we come back out into this world, we're going to need the blueprints that we were using. There we are. I've got this mech character blueprint. Let's go ahead and set this up to be... oh, wow, we left a lot of crap in here we don't need. I guess it doesn't matter at the moment. So if we look at the values that we're using, we're not using anything. Here it is. Just taking a look at what we have here. 1200 jump Z. So this is definitely the thing we were using. It's not, yeah, this is the right one, but it's currently very badly damaged. Doesn't have a mesh or anything like that. So we're just going to grab the mesh armature if we can find it. There it is. And the animator, I know that I have to be able to set the animator. Do I have to set it on the mesh? I seem to be... Maybe I have to put it in here? So here's the armature. I don't see any options for animation here. It wouldn't make any sense to put the animations here anyway, but there should be an animation option. Use animation blueprint. For some reason it doesn't have the same, like I was expecting a box for an icon. There we are. That's correct. Compile that. Why is it still like, it's got a star next to it, like it's not actually, see? Doesn't that star mean that it hasn't actually finished? It's just, I think the star means that it's not saved, but whatever. So let's see how that works, if that works. Well, that's definitely the new mesh model. And those don't look like the new animations, though. Those look like the old animations. Yeah, those are the old animations. Okay, that's interesting because we didn't export the old animations, so I'm not sure where they came from. Yeah, see, this is all empty. So where did you guys get your animations from? I mean, theoretically, those might be the right animations, and I just really did a bad job of them. That is possible. I mean, those are the animations that we're loading into the scene. So maybe I just did a really bad job on the animations. So let's go back into Blender and work on the animations, because clearly they're bad. So if we go over into the skeleton, we should be able to... Oh, we didn't update run yet. We only updated walk. That's right. We haven't actually done run. That's why it looks so terrible, because it is the old run animation, and it's just not even close to being right. So let's go ahead and do the run animation again. The other animations should all be at least vaguely the right skeleton. So this is what we had. Obviously, that's very silly. We could probably make a fun animation based on the kind of double bendy knee idea, but it's not what this robot is actually capable of doing, so we're not going to use it. Now, as you can see, the right leg is coming forward, and I think we're going to preserve that because I think that that's true of the walk animation as well, and I just like to keep those things on the same foot. So let's go ahead and do it. So just doing the passing animation for our run is always fun. Now the passing animation, the passing moment, is when you're going to be tallest. Let's go ahead and create a nice tall skeleton. But it's also the moment when you're driving, so let's go ahead and create some driving. And let's work on these arms. So if this leg is coming back, then this arm is coming forward. So we'll just go ahead and tweak that. And if this leg is coming forward, then this arm is going back. And in both cases, we're going to want to drop the shoulders. We'll keep it nice and simple at the moment. This bone is definitely in the wrong place, so we're going to need to drop it down and move it forward like this, maybe even more. And then we'll just insert everything. Kabam. And then we'll come over here and repeat the process. And then in the middle somewhere, I'm going to copy this. Oh, just one of them. Thank you. Copy. And then in the middle somewhere, we'll paste it. And you can see we're not actually balanced, so I'll need to rearrange these frames. They're not evenly distributed, but at the moment I don't care. The problem is that well, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. What we do need, however, is just to view this animation. I didn't copy it, sorry. Copy, Paste flipped, thank you. There we are. And we should have a very silly kind of running in place animation. And then, of course, what we want to do is get ourselves a nice, solid touch point. So that's fine. And then just grab that and paste it over here. Just take a quick little look here. Psham, psham, psham. So the only issue here is that we forgot to move the base. So let's go ahead and do that. Here's the base. And basically we're just going to move it like back here. Paste flipped. There we are. And that should create like a psham. Oh, hold on, that didn't work. Hold on. For some reason it didn't take. Copy. Paste flipped. There we are. We'll see. It might work. Oh, let's try it out. Well, that's definitely the right animation, but you can see that I pushed it way too far with the popping. So we're just going to take that under control a little bit better here. Just reduce the amount that we have. Just the amount of bobbing is a little bit much, so we'll go ahead and just bring that a little bit under control. No, it didn't take. I really don't understand why it copies what it copies when. We'll see here. That's better. And this might be a little bit too severe as well. Just pull it back. And then, boom. All right. I'm done slouching, so it's time for me to adjust the mic. All right. Oh, I still in play mode there. It almost looks like I'm going backwards, doesn't it? Well, good news is all the pieces work. Bad news is it still kind of looks shitty. Yeah, the animation is just bad. Somehow I managed to make it look like I'm running backwards. Alright, well, let's try and make this animation suck a little bit less. Now, do I have the... I think I just did model it backwards. Oh, fucking brilliant. So the problem here is that I just put these keyframes backwards. Alright, well, it's not going to be too much better, but it at least will be forwards this time, so let's take a look. Ah. Yeah, it's not great still, but it's in the right direction now. So the issue is that the bob I've got is not very convincing, and that's because it's a 4-frame animation. We should convince it to use 6, maybe even 8 frames. That should give us a little bit more crush. I think I've said that before. The crushing is really important, so we're going to go ahead and set that up. And the crush is simply the part where the mech hits the ground really, really hard, and shock absorbs everything. So just pull that down and pull this up and in, and down. And we can even just bring this leg up a notch. And bring these arms out a touch. Crush. So it's a little bit off center. Let's try and get it centered. There we are. We might have to redo some of the other frames as well. That's fine. Because this is a little bit too much action for just a 1-frame transition. So we'll just boom, and then obviously it has to be more frames than that, so we'll just drop it like that. Crush. Yeah, that's not going to be too bad, I don't think. But the problem is that what we see from the front here, if we take a look. Crush. Okay, that might work. Let's try it. Still got a little bit too much motion, forward and backwards motion. And we're really missing that forward push that we had before. But it's not a bad basic setup now. It's not unconvincing. The arms really need some work though. Previously I accidentally made them a little bit too like yay, and that was really not the mood I was going for. So let's go ahead and pull those arms into a proper pop. Oh, and we can also do a little bit of skeletal work here just by... There we are. Then we'll copy this and then come over here and paste it reversed. And that should give us a little bit more... I'm not sure about that leg, that lagging leg. That might be part of the problem. And we also still have a lot of motion forward and backwards. I'm not sure about that. We're going to have to come up with a way to sync it or something. But the basic idea is that I don't want the feet to slide too obviously across the ground. Yeah, so the problem is that this run doesn't have a prolonged in-air section. It just kind of like skates. See that? See that how it feels like it's on skates instead, which would make sense. I think there have been plenty of games about mechs in skates. But this isn't just a matter of it, not lining up with how the feet are on the ground. It's a matter of how the propelling doesn't seem to really be taking place. We got a real high kick in the back, but we don't have that sense of like push. So let's go ahead and give it a sense of push. So if we take a look at how that is here in Blender, this is the push, and you can see how the leg comes up off the ground. This rear leg is the pushing leg, and it's clearly not pushing, so we're going to go ahead and fix that. And I mean, I'm hardly an expert on animations, but if you're going to push the mech forward, that's going to take you some actual, like, effort. You know, you're going to have to push into the ground, and that's going to give you some good good motion. So the push has the bone, the core bone, in just the wrongest possible place. You see how that comes back? It's actually the opposite of how I want it. The push is where the bone needs to be the most forward. So we'll go ahead and set it up like that. And then we'll copy it, and then we'll paste it over here. And you can see that that is fine, but this is now too far forward, because it was an approximation, and we'll just go ahead and put that there. And we'll just... Is that far enough? There. Is that an ice cream truck? Why would there be an ice cream truck? Interesting. I'm not sure how many people around here would go to an ice cream truck. Let's take a look here. Did I invert this somehow? I think I inverted it somehow, didn't I? So this is left leg driving back. This is, I pasted over the wrong frame, didn't I? I did, didn't I? Let's try that again there. No, wait, I didn't. Hold on. Copy. Paste. Paste. It's just hard to see. Oh, you see that ridiculous shoof? That's a little bit much. So let's go ahead and grab these and move them here. And we'll do the same with these. I don't like this. Why is it black here and not up here? Don't know. Re-import everything and then hit play. So now that we've got the driving bone, the driving leg, it's not quite as skatey because it feels like we are at least putting some effort into it. We can probably push this a lot further. For now, however, well, you know what? I mean, I really want to push it a lot further. It's not very good, but it is at the very least functional, and that's enough for the moment. So if we're, yeah, it's fine. Crash. I'm a tightrope walker. Alright, so now we're back where we started, but our mech is now fully blocked out instead of only partially blocked out. It's still not by any stretch of the imagination of Final Mech. It's just that previously there were like holes in the back and shit, and it didn't really look good at all. This feels a little bit more in line with what we want. I think that just overall the body is too vertical. We'll have to try and figure out how we want that to feel later on, I think. Woo! Alright, so the next thing we need to be able to do is when we hold shift, we want the character to change speeds. And it seems like there ought to be an easy way to do this, but for some reason in the default character setup, the default character movement system, there is a crouch button, but not a dash button, which is very strange. And it means that we've got to constantly override the default speeds. And that in turn means that we have to change them inside of the blueprint rather than in a sidebar. Which is really dumb, but what can you do? So here's the mech character, and you can see that we've got some movement inputs here. And we can adjust how we deal with this. There are a lot of different ways of adjusting how we deal with that. One of the ways is we can create our own movement system. This is inherited, but we've got some stuff here that's just going to get in our way. So let's go do some deleting. We don't need touch inputs. The mouse input is important. The gamepad input will keep. Delete this. So the issue here is that when we add this movement input here, these need to be adjusted. We either need to adjust the inputs or we need to adjust the values. I think it's better if we adjust the values. Can we get an input here? Input. So here we've got a bunch of inputs. We can just check. We can see if left input is down. See. But the issue here is that what we really want to do is check and see if something was pressed. Now, if you see here, we've got these input actions and these input axes. Those are really what we want to use. Bum 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 bum. There sure are a lot of things with input in the title. So here's input axis events. We've got turn rate, move right, move couple down. So we don't actually have, it wouldn't be an axis either, it would be an action. So it's under input. I guess that's what we wanted. Input. Jump. So all we've got is jump and reset VR. We're going to have to change that, which I believe we do. Under project settings, there should be inputs. Here we see them. Jump and reset VR. We don't need reset VR. We'll just go ahead and delete that. And then we'll add in run sprint. And we'll give that the keyboard left shift. There we go. Well, technically we could just say, you know, it's shift nothing. I guess we'll just leave it as left shift for now. Yeah, that should do it. Go ahead and close that. Do we have to save it? I don't think we do. I think it saves automatically. So then we come over here, back into the character. We've got this problem where I believe we're going to have to, first off, delete this. I believe we're going to have to reopen this window. So we're just going to close it and then reopen it. Action input, or input action. Just manually go to input. There's too much shit in here, and it's really hard to track some of this stuff down. Is there any way to favorite some of this? Like, I want to put input as like something I use all the time. Why is input considered the same tier as Google Pad? There's got to be a way to customize this because it is ridiculous. That's fine. We'll figure it out. Sprint. So if we have this input action sprint, we're going to need to get the movement, the character movement, and can I just drag it in? Oh, look at that. And we're going to want to set the speed. Too much shit. So there is a way to do this, but I don't know why I can set the walkable floor angle and not the frickin' speed. There's a way to do it because I've done it before, but it's not under pawn. It must be under something else. Ah, it was under variables, character movement, one of these variables here. Movement mode. Walking. I think that what I really want to do is add another movement mode, but I don't know how to do that yet, so we're going to just leave it. Here's our get max speed. We want to set it. Set max walk speed. So we're going to just have to set that up as a 1200 for walking. But we would like to do that setting at the first frame as well. There probably is like a on first frame. There's probably an event, right? Event. Game. No. Ah, here it is. Begin play. Only issue is I don't know if we can... Oh, we can. Good. That's nice. Just drop this down, and then we'll copy this and paste it, bring it up. Like that. And in theory, that will work. Let's find out. So there's our walking animation. It's a little bit aggressive because it's a 2-frame or 4-frame, 2 frames and then 2 of the same frame flipped walk animation. If we did a proper 4-frame walk animation, it would look a little bit better, I think. And there's me holding shift, going into a run, and back down into a walk, and then back into a run, and then we'll hop. Hop. Hey, we're starting to get somewhere. The hips are a little bit high on these animations. And maybe that just means that the body is a little bit low. I can certainly adjust that. But you can see how we keep catching like the sun on the nub on our back there. I don't want that. So let's go ahead and adjust the visuals on this mech so that we don't have that really kind of awkward nub. So just grab it like this and move it forward. And then this groinal thing, we'll just move that up. What did I do? I must have accidentally hit V. There we are. So that should be a pretty basic change. I think that it would look best if we moved this up even further, like that. Yeah. Let's go ahead and import that or export that. Are we currently only doing selected? I hope so. Yeah. Oh, still exported 8 assets because it's all still bound together. That's fine. So we still catch some sunlight back there, but it's no longer like the legs weren't being lit by the sun, and then the pin on the back there was, and it was really awkward looking. So this is better. 2500 is a little bit slow. We're going to go ahead and pop that up considerably. If we open this up here, we should be able to just set this to, say, 3500. But this really needs to be a variable that we can set in a sidebar, and I don't know how to do that. I think I can promote this to variable, but I don't know. Well, we'll give it a shot here. Running speed. And we'll give it a default of... Oh, we have to recompile it first? We'll wait for a couple of seconds there. Promote this to variable, and we're going to call that walking speed. And compile it. And default values are already set. Seems pretty good. Instance editable. That means that I can change it. Yeah, like that is exactly what I want, right? I suppose we'll find out. So if I hit play, and then we come over here and look at the mech character, and I sort of look down here and see what I can see. Look at that. That's what I wanted. Hooray, every day I learn a little bit more. Wah! Right now you're wondering why it looks so bad. Well, I mean, aside from the primitive modeling, it might be wondering why there's like lines on the ground and shit. That's because the lighting needs to be rebuilt. So let's go ahead and do that. I have a feeling that maybe it won't like to stream while it's doing this. It seems like that would probably be the same set of hardware pieces. So I try not to do it on screen or stream. It's not terribly interesting. It wasn't interesting in Unity either. This is basically the same for both, except for, of course, I have some issues with my pieces here, but that's all fine. Those are all temporary. So you can see that the lines are now gone. It's now a contiguous, well-lit plane, which is fine. Now we have a lot of work left to do, but every week we make a little bit more progress. That's the name of the game. I have some ideas for how I might want this mech to look. And I'm thinking a lot more clamshell casing. I think the clamshell casing I did for the upper arms was a good idea. But what we're going to do is we're going to make the clamshell casing pop. We're going to like have glowy elements on the edges and stuff. That, however, is still in the future. I've still got a lot of thinking on exactly how I want to do that yet. In addition, we need to actually put in the losing our balance and all that jazz parts. So the way that's going to work is whenever your velocity changes, and I don't mean the velocity total. I don't mean like the amount of speed you've got. I mean even if you are going the same speed, if you change directions as well. So whatever that change is, whether it's slowing down or changing directions or going faster, it costs you balance. So when you're running, you're going to run out of balance faster. And when you're walking, you'll actually regenerate balance some. And when you're stopped, you'll regenerate it a lot. And the idea there is we're going to need some animations based on you being low on balance. So we're going to have some additional running and walking animations that are like desperate to not fall over. But since these animations are so primitive at the moment, there's not really a huge reason to push for that. We're also going to do some other kinds of levels and stuff. I've been working on getting Unreal to do light baking in fun ways. I've been creating some prototypes to try and get it to bake as close to Control as I can. Control is that game with the really nice bounce lighting. Well, of course, Unreal is not quite as good because it's not built specifically for bounce lighting. I have a feeling that next year, when the next version of Control, or when the next version of Unreal comes out, we'll probably get a new bounce lighting rendering system, since Control put them to shame, and they're probably going to want to match that. Bounce lighting is just great. I love it. So what we might do is do some interiors, large, mech interiors for running around hangar bays and military bases or whatever, rather than just strictly exteriors. And we can light those interiors with some nice bounce lights. Should be pretty easy, pretty fun. There's also some pieces here that are, I'm running around the thing in circle, but the whole point is that you might be tempted to go off-road like this. Cut it short. And of course that works great, except for it's going to cost you balance. Being off-road is a lot less, it's a lot more treacherous, a lot less sturdy footing. And jumping, of course, will cost you a ton. But what we have here is some really serious, deceleration. So let's just edit the mesh character to be a little bit more slothy. And this is something that we did before, but it was in a different project, a test project. Basically, we decelerate way too fast, and that's a problem. So we're going to go ahead and just radically reduce all of these values here. I'll go ahead and compile that, and then see whether or not that gives us a little bit more. Gonna need to pump up our jump, I think. It's pretty anemic right now. So you see we got some sliding going on as we kind of rock to the left and the right. If we want to change direction, we got a little bit of drift. That's how I want it, but we are going to have to do some kind of leg, either a turn animation or leg tracking IK setup. Don't really know enough about it to know which of those things is viable. But you can see how we don't stop immediately, we don't start immediately. It's basically right. We can adjust it more later. Alright, well, I'm going to stop. I don't think anybody was watching, so I'm not feeling particularly compelled to go any further, and there are some other things I want to do today. We made more progress than I thought we would because Unreal behaved itself. I was expecting it to explode again. I'm not sure what was with that last week. Have a good one.